What's up, people? How we doing today? It is yet again another Transformer Slag YouTube live stream. That name is way too long, but that's just how it is. I am Protoman, your host for this evening, and it is yet again another look into the week of Transformers with taking some super chat questions and chillaxing. The world's in a crazy place right now, so let's try to forget it with giant robots everywhere. Probably the best way to go about it. And we already got a super chat from Downright Superb. Thank you for the super chat, Downright. Can we expect new figures from Studio Series 86 line that have already had Earthrise toys? Would they do a new version of Optimus again? Who would you like? Well, I mean, I think that the choices that they did with Studio Series 86 are pretty much planned to not overlap with other stuff. Like, you know, we have a Cyclonus in Kingdom, but yet we don't have a Cyclonus in Studio Series 86. That's kind of intentional. We have a Galvatron in Kingdom coming in a leader class. We don't probably have one in Studio Series 86. Will it happen at some point? Of course. But they're going to milk this line as long as possible. Studio Series 86 is not going to be something that we're going to get dumped on completely in 1 year. This is going to be something we're going to be talking about for the next 3 years. We're going to be talking in 2 years from now, oh man, Studio Series 86 Wreck-Gar or whoever, you know. So that's probably what's going to be the case. Who would I like to see next? Well, I mean, we need something that really reinvents the wheel. And it's too soon for like to revisit Wheelie, because Wheelie's going to be a pack-in with Grimlock. Because I'd really like a good Wheelie figure. Just do it right this time, outside of third-party stuff that I've picked up at this point. But Wheelie would be one I'd really like to see, just to get that done. Aside from that, it's all stuff that really we're going to have to wait. It's too soon for a Springer. It's too soon for an RC. We just got our other guys in Cup and Blur and Hot Rod, and Rodimus is probably going to be in Kingdom from what we keep hearing. You know, we already got the Hot Rod one that comes with the Matrix, so that's pretty much going to take care of people's displays for that. At that point, it's like, who's really a primary focus? Can't say a Quintesson. We already kind of got that too. There's just, I don't know. There's too many right now things that I can't really say now I would see it. But I could see like a Springer a year from now. Because Springer was Siege. We're already in Earthrise. Give it a couple years with Kingdom to get that distance. And then we could go into that. But that's more or less it. Thank you for the super chat question, Downright Superb. So let's jump into the news that we had this week. First thing I want to just kind of cover, it's raining outside, so the weather, I'm just looking out a window. It's like, man, that's loud. So if you hear like pitter-patter, it's crazy weather, even in winter. Freezing rain. So first thing to talk about, we talked about it last week, and now it's kind of becoming a reality, and it's that of the Buzzworthy Bumblebee stuff hitting retail in certain areas and already overstocking and filling up tons of space. This photo right here, I mean, if you kind of count it on face value, there's 56 Buzzworthy Bumblebee toys there. That's brutal. And I don't know. I don't know. Considering that it's a lot of, hey, it's great if you didn't get the figure the first time around, you get a second opportunity, mixed with people who probably didn't get it the first time around, didn't want it to begin with, and just a lot more Bumblebee stuff. A sea of yellow we are going to be returning to again, and I made a comment about it last week, and this week now we have photo evidence of it being a reality. And it's going to be pretty bad. I'm kind of worried. I mean, it's good in the sense, well, hey, if they liquidate it, then we're going to be able to get it cheap. You know, so hey, any of these that you're interested in, don't buy it brand new. Wait, it's probably going to go on liquidation. Although that core class one that comes with the spike, I'm still kind of interested in that one. That one kind of intrigues me. But we shall see. We shall see. Ridiculously expensive reissued Studio Series Bumblebee stuff. Next, what we have is, I discussed this on my Twitter, and it's all the new listings that have been going on in terms of, we have now pretty much a pretty clear indicator of what's going to be going on in the first half of 2021 for Transformer product. What I'm going to jump into first is just the BotBot stuff, because that's going to be the next series that we're going to have. It's not the next main series. It's just the next TV series we're going to have. Earthrise is behind us now. It was what it was. And now we have the BotBot series coming up. This is the 2021 product lineup. A lot of it is an emphasis on $20 price point, big cardboard, 10-pack kind of stuff, along with reissues of older product, which kind of indicates to me that some of those Wave 1 characters, like the Donut and, the Shed Heads and the Sugar Shocks and all of those dudes, and Puxley the Puck, those are probably going to be the main characters of the line. The art that's there also in this image is going to be the next set, which is going to be some kind of toilet troop set. So it's going to have like all kinds of like fish-based stuff and animals and toilets and pets and all kinds of weird things. We're going to see what happens with that. There's not enough information right now. There's a lot of big question marks. But this is more or less the BotBots lineups for the first half of 2021 up until June, possibly July. And then we'll see what happens after that. We were supposed to have... Well, I'll get into the news afterwards when it comes to that, unfortunately, the next thing. So let's get into the thing that's more important to people, is that of the Transformers 2021 product code lineup in relation to Kingdom. This is more or less everything that you're going to be getting from now until July. Outside of, like I said, the oddball... I'm up here, guys. Outside of, let's say, the odd movie Studio Series stuff, not Studio Series 86. This is more or less everything. Obviously, if you look in the center there's a whole bunch of Hasbro Pulse stuff with question marks. That stuff recently just got filled in. I'm going to get into that with the next slide. But it's more or less, stuff that we already know, with stuff that, we kind of are expecting, like the Pipes, the Slammer, the Waspinator, the Shadow Panther, Trax, Wingfinger, whatever that is going to be. A lot of weird stuff going on there, but we shall see what happens with that. Let's get into more or less what those question marks were, though. So I think it was 2 days ago. I know it was not long after we finished our last stream. We had this show up. So we don't know what the origin of this is, how it's going to be distributed, but judging by what is missing in the product lineups, this is a possible Hasbro Pulse product or an Amazon exclusive thing. Either way, the bad news of it is it's probably not going to be retail. We have what looks like one of the Sea Rust Sparklisses from the Siege Series 1 Netflix. I think it was episode 5 that featured these guys. Episode 4 and 5, I think, had them. That character you see for like 5 seconds. One of many just molds that they just rusted up and everything. The little zombie dudes and everything. So we got one of the barricade / smokescreen mold going on here from Siege. We're getting back into kind of an army builder thing. The crazy thing is if it's a web exclusive kind of thing where you got to get it through Amazon or whatever and not retail, that would kind of suck. Some people are saying it could be the Netflix Walmart exclusive stuff, which would be better, because then that could be easier to pick up and cheaper, and people don't have to worry about shipping or anything. But either way, hey, that's pretty cool. That's a really nice paint deco on it. It really looks like a car that was left rusting in the sea of rust, so to speak. And the other one is some purple repaint of Paleot Rex. Could be just a straight up, repaint, not a new character, not an homage to anything. Could be, some people are saying, oh, maybe it's part of a spoiler box, pack in, because every spoiler box has had like a clear figure of something. I don't know, but usually the clear figures have always been something smaller. This would be a deluxe, and I'm pretty sure people would be disappointed. And from what one of the leakers, what they said was that the next spoiler box is actually going to be something spoilery, not just some throwaway thing like in the past two were. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So that one too, also, I was just kind of like, oh, what? That's not Chrome Bite. That's not, like one of the, I was thinking of like all the clear or purple dinosaurs in Transformers lore. and it doesn't really throw back to anything. One person's like, oh, it's Megatron's mace from G1 because of the mace head. It's like, okay, sure, maybe. Even though his mace didn't have a face on it, that was a primal thing, but we'll see. We will see what happens with that. And then we had, afterwards, pop, we had these two show up. Again, more army building kind of stuff. We have the Ironhide, Quintesson, Trooper, whatever you want to call it, the drones that were working for the Quintessons, which if you actually zoom in on his little chest piece, it's clearly the Quintesson logo on his chest there. Using the Siege Ironhide mold, which, by the way, I love that mold. That's an amazing mold. What sucks is that if, I guess it's kind of, if this is a Netflix figure, it'll be Hasbro kind of going like, look, we understand that the Ironhide Siege thing was difficult to get and he was hard to find. Maybe this is a way to make up for it and give people a different way to get the mold, even though it's not a red repaint Ironhide. It's the zombie, not zombie, but the Quintesson Trooper kind of thing going on. Pretty cool. He's missing his weapon, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be included because he even had it in the show. Like, yeah, literally the weapon that it came with, the Ironhide came with. So, nothing new there. The Cheetor is fascinating, and that really tells us a lot because that pretty much is the Netflix Cheetor toy that we saw the listing for back in, I want to say May of last year. The Crosshairs was the best version of that mold of the Ironhide. I love the Crosshairs one. I wish it came with his Target Master. But yeah, so getting back to that Cheetor, from what I could see comparing the two to the actual Kingdom one to this one, looks like it's the better one of the two. It has the more paint apps, the more accurate colors, the little, if you look under the cheetah underbelly and stuff, it has the white powdering of the under cheetah belly, which matches more of the character model. People are saying, oh, they didn't paint the legs. It's yeah, because the legs are mistransformed. That's why you don't see the blue. It looks pretty good. It looks like it's like if you got the Kingdom one, if you would have waited, this is probably the better version of the two to pick up. But that's such a thing with Transformers. A lot of times they make a brand new mold and then they release it and people buy it because, oh man, it's a brand new mold. And then they release it in a better color scheme because people will then buy that mold a second time because now it's the better color scheme. They'll have a mold and they'll be like, this mold would make a perfect Ravage. But you know what? We're going to paint it red and we're going to release it as another character and then we'll release it as Ravage afterwards and we're going to make 2 sales. And it's smart business, but that's what's going to happen. That was a bootleg Ravage for people that are wondering why I have a red Ravage figure there. It's actually oversized. It's pretty large. But yeah, so that's a thing. It's going to be it's really nice. I like the paint deco on this one way more. But we're going to see what happens. We'll see what happens with that. It's supposed to be the Netflix one, but we don't know yet. We do not know. We will find out in the near future, hopefully. Hopefully when Hasbro comes forward with some streams of their own and give us some stuff. Next we have, from Flame Toys, they gave us our first full color look at the Flame Toys Furai model kits. We finally have the full color one of Windblade. And I think she looks spectacular. I don't care what anyone says. All the drama on the internet. I love this. I think it looks great. It looks awesome. All of the Furai stuff has always been a more bombastic interpretation of the character designs. The Optimus Primal is jacked. There's all kind, look at their Devastator is something Obari would have done. So I'm totally fine with this Windblade. I think she looks great. And she looks super articulated. Look, we just came off of Masterpiece RC that has just as many great articulation with just a little bit of sensualness of a character. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. And if you don't like it, there's only a billion other products you could consume within this hobby. One is not going to derail everything, especially one of a Japanese model kit for a model kit market that is primarily for the Japanese audience. And I can tell you right now, I don't want to get into statistics, but I guarantee that the people who are angry about this are not the people that this is aimed at, and they're not the people who are probably buying the Furai model kits beforehand. So no money lost, no money gained, no money, no money. But that's that on that. Next we had, and this is really big news, we initially had a image leak of what was going to be our next masterpiece. And I'm not talking about skids. I'm talking about MP42 Plus Thundercracker. So this image showed up a couple days ago. People at first were saying, "Oh, it's fake. It's fake. You know, it's just people, you know, photoshopping the Starscream." And I was going like, "Yeah, but if they photoshopped the Starscream, they really went out of their way to somehow get their hands on that Starscream mold, put it in the pose that literally homages, like in the G1 cartoon, the first season 1 intro, the very first Transformer you see is Thundercracker doing his, you know, leading the charge, like he's doing this over and over, you know, shooting. And so if it's, at first I was like, if this is fake, then these guys really went out of their way. But it's not fake, and I'll get into why it's not fake afterwards. The Japanese translation on the bottom, I translated it 2 days ago. All it says is, new release Thundercracker transforms from robot mode into F-15 jet, blah, blah, blah. Nothing too major there. What's interesting about his accessories is he actually comes with 2 faces less than Starscream and less accessories. He doesn't have a, like, the one thing that I find bizarre about this is he doesn't have a stand for the jet mode. And every single, and I'm looking at my Masterpiece collection, every single jet mode going all the way back to MP3 Starscream, like back in, when was that, like 2007? Every single one of them came with a jet stand. So I can't believe that this wouldn't come with one too. So I think that this accessory rollout that we see here is not everything. I think we're going to get a little reflector that he could hold and you know, do that. I'm pretty sure he's going to get the jet stand. He'll probably get more accessories. It's just, this was probably just an early leak, and we're not seeing everything. And everything else, it's like, oh, hey, the jet pods or whatever here are a different color than Starscream's, like the 2 yellow ones, they were pink on Starscream. But that's it. And then we'll confirm that it wasn't fake was then afterwards, Hasbro, Takara PR and everything, they posted this image. And I think also Big Bad Toy Store on their website and TF Source, they posted this image. So it does confirm, number one, that it is legit. He's going to be coming soon. That pre-orders are going to be probably sometime this week. And that he is MP52 Plus. And he's a 2.0, as we call it, 2.0 Thundercracker. Some people were complaining online, well, MP52 Plus, then that means we're not getting Skywarp then. Yes, we are. Of course we're getting Skywarp. We're going to get everybody. We're going to, you know, Takara is not going to leave money off the table, you know? They're not going to leave money off the table. If there's money to be made from a Seeker Jet mold, which there is, they will do it. You know, that MP11 mold, which was the second Starscream mold that we got, that thing got repainted and everything. And we got like Sunstorm, we got Acid Rain, we got like all kinds of different repaints. King Starscream, clear repaints, all kinds. They're going to do it again. Mark my words, for sure. Now for some sad news, 2 conventions, 2 big events were confirmed canceled. No surprise, in all honesty. I thought they were going to get canceled anyways, but now they're both official. And it's that of New York Toy Fair and that of Wonder Festival 2021 Winter. New York Toy Fair was supposed to happen later this year. They pushed it back from its original January-February date, and they were just like, look, maybe it'll get better next year. And, well, that was not the case, unfortunately. And so it's being canceled. Now that BotCon isn't a thing anymore, New York Toy Fair really is the one time out of the year that we get the biggest, I guess, information dump on new Transformer product in terms of images and photos and information straight from the horse's mouth. So without that happening, it probably means we're going to see more Hasbro Fan First Fridays, Transformer Tuesdays, and streaming stuff from the Hasbro Pulse website. So I think we're just going to have to keep our noses to the screen and get ready for that in the future. And Wonder Festival not happening, that's a big deal too, because a lot of times Masterpiece stuff would show its first faces in a prototype form or whatever at Wonder Festival. So that not happening kind of sucks too. But the guys at Wonder Festival said that they will try to do some kind of online stuff with the developers from Takara Tomy and everything, and show off all the new product. The only thing that sucks is because there's a lot of non-Transformer stuff that they show at that show that I'd be really interested to see, and now it's going to be kind of hard to find those sources because they're probably going to be on Japanese websites and spread out everywhere. So I'm going to kind of try to hope to find like one thread where everyone's talking about all the cool stuff that's going to be shown there. Wonder Festivals, I can understand that one being canceled too, because that was supposed to happen literally this February, and I can't imagine how a crowded show like that with all the people that show up, how that would have been pulled off. You know, like Toy Fair, they get about 3,000 people. 600 of them are the companies. You know, so it's a more of a business one. But even that one getting canceled, it's like makes sense. It's New York. It's crazy right now in the world. World is getting nutty. But Wonder Festival, that one I can understand. That's like a San Diego Comic-Con level kind of convention in Japan. So it's kind of a shame, but fortunately, like I always say, it is what it is. You know. Next we have Jazwares. They were showing off this kind of stuff, and I was like, huh. This showed up in retail and Target recently. It's their Jazwares Zodeki statue line. Now the statues are about, like, I think they said 6 to 7 inches how tall they are. They're, you know, you look at them and you go, hey, Proto, there's the legendary 7 minus Devastator. Like I always say, Hasbro, if you're gonna, Hasbro, when they do licensing with people, you got to do the legendary 7. It's got to be Optimus, Megatron, Starscream, Grimlock, Bumblebee, Soundwave, and if you could fit in your scale, a Devastator. And no surprise, they did 6 of those 7. The only thing that I actually kind of like about these, they're non-articulated statues. They look kind of cool. If they were cheap, like if they were like 10, 15 bucks, I'd probably be interested in these. But the only thing that really interests me with these is the backgrounds that they're standing on. If you removed all of these figures, they all combine together to make a big diorama. The background is like Sunbow, Sunbow Generation 1 1984 Cybertron. Like it has those cool buildings. Like if you look at Bumblebee's background and Starscream's. I would love to just have the diorama. Just the backgrounds are cool. The figures, I don't care about the figures, but the dioramas would be cool to kind of like have your own stuff to display in. But otherwise, I don't know, I dig it. I dig it a lot. Looks really cool. But if it's expensive, eh. And Jazwares, like, you know, they have, to my knowledge, like the brands that they have right now, they do like the World of Nintendo stuff with Super Mario and everything. They did Sonic the Hedgehog for a bit. It's funny that they kind of have a Transformer license to do statues and stuff. It shows that they're kind of going out there to some of Hasbro's stuff. So should be interesting. But again, if they're cheap, I'll be way more interested. Otherwise, I don't know. We shall see what's happening with that. And the last piece of news that we got today, and I actually want to do an update on it because when we initially reported it, this was supposed to be something that was for the American market. Apparently it isn't. We talked about these this morning. All the news outlets were saying that this is something for the American market. It was actually incorrect. This is a Singapore McDonald's Transformers promotion that is starting today. So anyone who's listening, I know I have a lot of viewers from all over the globe. If you're in the East Asian region, these are starting to debut now. They are Cyberverse toys. It's non-transformable Cyberverse toys that have a lenticular on its chest, so when you move the figure, it changes what's on the chest, and you kind of see what's inside the chest. So the Optimus is probably going to have the Matrix. The Bumblebee has like some Energon stuff. So it's kind of interesting. The Starscream, I think it's going to show like his little missiles that come out of his chest and everything. It's Jack. Excuse me, Jack Specific. Oh, it's not Jazwares. Sorry, I get those mixed up. Jazwares was the guys who did the Mega Man stuff. That's right. Why did I get those two mixed up? Mega Man was done by Jazwares. Anyways, sounds so familiar. So long ago, those Mega Man figures they used to do. Anyways, so this stuff here essentially, it's going to be only available in Singapore, but it really tells me just how confident Hasbro has been. And I've said this before so many times, but just how confident Hasbro has been with Cyberverse and how they've been approaching it. The fact that we're getting Cyberverse fast food promotion stuff, but not even locally, just in other regions of the world, internationally, which says like just how they've been tackling this brand, this like sub brand all this time. And it's weird, like, you know, we have all this product. They put out all this stuff. No announcements, no planning. Even this, you know, I guess McDonald's wasn't interested. And I was told that from a McDonald's employee afterwards. I asked, I'm like, what is going to be the fast food promotion for this month if we're not getting this? And they're like, oh, the movie Soul. The animated movie Soul has toys. So apparently those are more important than even the Transformer brand, which says a lot about McDonald's, which says a lot about Hasbro. It says a lot about the IP right now. Maybe we'll see it later. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird thing, but that's more or less it for the news this week. Again, just want to give a shout out quickly to the sponsors, Symbiote Studios, who gives us our cool Transformer shirts. Oh, I got on this side today. Transformer pins. So I'm doing the Soundwave today. Here's their Optimus one that I love so dear, and my favorite of the plush, the Bumblebees. Some of the pins also, some of the plush also come with pins, so you get that cool as a nice little bonus. They have a lot of cool stuff. Here's their entire lineup of everything that they have available right now. They recently just released, you see Shovel Knight over there. They released the Enchantress, which is part of the Shovel Knight line, so if you're into that, so check that out, symbiotestudios.com. It's in the link in the description below. Also, a lot of cool Transformer product. Nice, cool sponsor of the show. They work with Hasbro on developing a lot of cool Transformer product, and they really help out the podcast and clothe us. I don't think you guys want to see me doing the podcast in the nude. Wouldn't work out for anybody, that's for sure. Anyways, so let's talk about stuff this week. So I didn't really pick up much this week. The mail has been pretty bananas. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the world, and when you add it all up, I feel like all of my stuff is in limbo right now in terms of shipping. Like everything that I like ordered, like in, let's say, like December, like early December, mid-December, is still slowly, you know, anything from Japan that I ordered is still in limbo right now. I have stuff from Korea still in limbo. It's taking its time. It's taking its time. But one thing that came through was I ordered this piece of history here. This was a O-make, as we call it, Beast Wars Japanese gift when you were part of a club. I probably should cover the address here, but it's cool. It has the Beast Wars logo on it, and they sent you, if you joined it, this little album which has this cool original art on it. And I like the art on the back here, Primal with shaking the hand of Leo Convoy. And what it was essentially was like a sticker book. So they gave you a whole bunch of like trading cards, like tech spec cards of certain characters, and I like the original art there of all the Maximals. Pretty cool. Very buff looking Air Razor there because she was a female in that continuity in Japan. And then more cards. And then they gave like a hologram sticker, Primal's face, that you could put on there, and you had to collect them all. And then of course the rest of it is it's just like a little like album essentially. So you could put your cards in there and stuff. Pretty cute. Pretty cute. And here's all the Preds. There's Black Arachnia and Inferno. Look at Inferno. It looks kind of weird there. Pterosaur and all of them. Nice original art of all of those. Pretty cool little thing. Didn't cost me much, and it came in its original shipping envelope. And I like this kind of stuff of Beast Wars' history, essentially. It was really, really, really cool. And then, this one's hilarious. So, I always talk about toy investing, toy product investing, you know, values of stuff that go up and down, and how, you know, certain product, when you buy it, it actually does increase in value. Certain product that you buy it just totally decreases in value. And it's, you know, there's a lot of Transformer toys. I would say about 80% of Transformer product, the second it reaches about like 2 years old, it just goes, you know, especially loose complete even. So you could usually, like, if something was $20 in 6 to 8 months, it then drops to 15, even 10 loose complete. You could get it cheaper. And so I used to always pay attention to that kind of stuff. And this was Tough Stuff magazine. This was a collectible investors magazine, meaning that it wasn't for like guys who collected trading cards and autographs and memorabilia. It's for people that bought it for investment value to then turn around and make money. And Tough Stuff was a 90s magazine in the bubble of the 90s when everyone thought everything was worth money, from Beanie Babies to Furbies to all kinds of stuff. And I made a few little bookmarks here because of funny stuff. So this one's dated from 1994, and they're hyping, oh, the X-Men Fleer trading cards are coming out soon, when those were a thing. And they had like one article here that was like going like, when is, how much is too much? And they were talking about how in the sports card industry there was too many trading cards, like, where one guy would debut and there'd be multiple rookie cards across multiple companies, that nothing is of value anymore. And they were predicting back in 1994 that the bubble of the trading card industry was going to burst. Imagine this individual, Larry Canal, the managing editor of this magazine, was predicting it even back then. How right you were, Larry. How right you were. Then we get into, they were talking about how, like, oh, maybe autographs are going to be the future, and stupid autograph tricks you could do to increase the value. Like what increases the value of an autograph as opposed to what isn't. Like, some people getting autographs on, napkins, and how that has no value and stuff, as opposed to like anything else. Like, don't get it on a napkin. No one's going to care about a Magic Johnson autograph on a napkin or something. It's interesting. They were just talking about, like, and whose autographs are worth more, certain autographs, how they increase in value, which it applies to Transformers too, because anyone that's gone to Transformer conventions, if you've been going to TFCon over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of guests that if you got their autographs, they've passed away since then. And the reality with value of autographs is when someone passes away, that factory doesn't exist anymore, aka their hand. So the amount of autographs that exists is gone. So that's why, like, autographs like Orson Welles or Starscream, or, like, which is Chris Latta, a lot of those are very desired because those people have passed away, and those autographs are very difficult to get today. So, they just went into, like, little basic stuff like that, which is just fun to read back in the day. And then, of course, you have, like, I love these ads. By the way, this whole book is filled with ads. Buy low, sell high. I promise you this. What series is this? This is, doesn't even say, which is terrible. Oh, Donruss. Oh boy, Donruss baseball cards, 1994. I guarantee these cards aren't worth anything today, even a complete set and every rookie card. But this whole book is just ads, and ads and ads of guys trying to unload their stuff because that speculator boom was going to happen. And the last thing, the funniest thing in this, was them talking about how the POG market was dying. Too little, too late. The death of POG. Because POG is a thing in 1994. And how it was dying and the market wasn't doing well anymore. But again, what's fascinating about this is just it really shows, it shows, like, they were talking about, like, card conditions and how, like, in the future, like, people are only going to care about PSAs and grading and stuff like that. Just, it's interesting because when you look back to 1994 and that era and how people were thinking in terms of what is investable and what isn't, the toy market was not on the radar yet. That was in its early infancy, like the early Power of the Force, Star Wars, 1994, 95. Oh, the one per case, Princess Leia or something. That was in the early days, in the Lando Calrissian, Hawaiian Slammers. But yeah, it's to me, like, it's funny to see that because you fast forward, and now, like, toys are probably one of the safest investments in terms of quick turnaround of market of value increase. I don't encourage scalping, but if you buy a Target Thrust, some idiot is going to give you sometimes double your money for what you paid for it because they just can't wait. And I've seen this so many times. I have done, at this point, maybe 50 Transformer conventions at this point, between BotCon, TFCon, and small stuff. And it's bananas. It's bananas what people pay. It's absolutely bananas. Like, they just can't wait. And when the new hotness is out, they will do anything. When people come to my parts parties, I have all this stuff super cheap, and all they care about is, do you have the latest of this series? I'll pay like double for the deluxes. And then they'll go to the dealer room. They'll pay double for the deluxes. They'll crack open the packages. Anyone that walks by the garbage bins in TFCon sees how the garbage bins are just filled with packaging, because no one cares about mint and package. Everyone opens it up. And then next year, that stuff's in the charity auction for free. They gave it away. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy, but that's why, like, when it comes to investing with toys, you got to be really smart, and you got to see where the market is going to be in 5 months, 6 months. And we have such this instant gratification kind of logic where, we gotta get the toys now, we gotta make the money now, we gotta enjoy it now, and then we gotta forget about it in a couple weeks. I guarantee people were screaming about finding thrust a couple weeks ago. In 2-3 months from now, you're not going to hear a peep about it. It's going to be the next thing. It's going to be the next thing. It's going to be the next thing. And those people that were looking for thrust 2 months ago, 3 months ago, they'll be able to slide in and probably get something cheaper, because people are going to open them, people are going to unload on them, people sell stuff because they realize, they didn't want it anymore. They bought 2 of them and they tried to scalp it, and no one was going to pay their scalper prices, so now they're stuck with it and they need the money. So there's always opportunities to save money in this hobby, and there's opportunities to make money in this hobby. And it's really just a matter of how do you figure that out? You need to have the knowledge. You need to have the knowledge, because sometimes people, they invest too much into buying stuff. Like, there's this one guy I remember, he bought a ton of the Devastator combiners. And I remember that image was kicking around. It's probably still on my Twitter somewhere. It has to be like 3-4 years ago, maybe earlier than that. And he bought a whole bunch of them, and he was like flipping them for like $400 a piece initially, and then he made it to 300. He had like an eBay account, and then 200, and then he stuck it at 200, and they all sold out at 200. So he did make his money, but it was because a lot of people couldn't wait. They let guys like him rule the schoolyard in terms of picking on people and making them spend money that either they don't have or they shouldn't be spending, especially for a product that at the time was an MSRP of, I want to say, $139 plus tax, depending on region. And then it even got cheaper when it hit Costco, which I believe went down to $100 plus MSRP plus tax, and that was in the holiday season. But yeah, that's more or less it. I just wanted to talk about that just because it's always a strong reflection. And I talk about Transformer finance so much because too many people spend stupid money in this hobby. They really do. They put money in the wrong places. They don't know, like, where, when should they overpay for something and when should they underpay for something. And they never think about, like, when are those underpaying opportunities. Now, granted, yeah, conventions don't exist right now, but when they do come back, whenever that is, 12 years from now, God, I hope not. But when they do come back, you're going to see those opportunities are going to present themselves. They will show up. Even the simplicity of a garage sale can't exist today in the current climate that we're in. So it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Larry, what's up, Larry? Larry's looking for the G.I. Joe Target exclusives. I could feel for you, Larry. It's right now, it's kind of crazy. It's tough to be a collector. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, have you been picking up, X, Y, or Z of the new product? And I'm going, number one, no, because most of it I wait for it when it's on sale. And number two, most stuff just hasn't been available or been open locally in my region. So how am I going to go to Walmart and buy Transformers even when they're on sale when those sections are closed off because I'm not allowed to be shopping non-essential service product? It's just how the world is right now. So I'm just going to wait it out. Just going to chill and see what happens. See what happens. I'm not worried about it. There's going to be plenty to go around. I'm not worried about not getting a rat trap or a Cheetor or anything like that. It's wave one. It's going to be plentiful. Every store is going to have it. And there's going to be sales. And there's going to be people who bought it. And then there's going to be people who don't want it anymore. And then there's going to be the guy who bought that Cheetor and then discovered Transformers, which was that cool story that I posted on Twitter. And then discovers Masterpieces and doesn't need that Cheetor anymore and sells it cheap. There's always going to be an opportunity. But what's new with you guys? So let's take it to the super chat questions and everything. We're going to answer some questions and stuff. And then we'll call it a night and relax. Enjoy our crazy Saturday that we have going on. It's been pretty crazy in the world today. It's been pretty crazy. I just hope everyone is just staying safe, being, not doing anything too irrational, just relaxing. So our first question is, do you think Takara Tomy would go this far with MP cars and not do Jazz and Mirage? So I actually talked about this on the Discord for Transformers Slag. I went into it in deep detail and I was posting stuff, and you mentioned it a little bit. Licensing issues is a big deal. People need to understand that the Studio Series 86 Jazz that we got, they really leaned on making it look like the Fluoro Deary animation model and making it look as much as not like a Porsche as possible. And Jazz is a Martini Le Mans Porsche GT, which Martini, alcohol company, sponsor, you can't put that on a product. Look what happened when Exhaust, when he was a Masterpiece, there was a huge issue with that, with Marlboro's and cigarette company. So it's kind of the same thing, where I imagine there's a lot of loopholes with Jazz that they probably have to get around beforehand. And when you're talking Porsche, that's owned by Volkswagen, and the issues that they have with that, it's so much easier for Japan to turn to their fellow Honda and the Honda City, which is what Skids was, and do that. And talking about Mirage, it's the same story. The Ligier Formula One from, I think it was 1981, same story. All of that trademarking, all of that licensing, Formula One cars are covered with licensing, covered with it. It's a bit of a headache. And I would love Mirage, because I love Formula One Transformers. And the red repaint they do, I would go nuts. But I can't see those two just yet because of the licensing issues. They're going to go about the easier routes. The Trailbreaker, the Hoist, those ones for sure at some point. They just make more sense at this moment. They really do. Where's the next question I saw? Dear Proto, also hoping Kingdom Cyclonus gets repainted into Farrak and probably make him into a mercenary. Well, Farrak, I have Farrak. He was one of the oddball BotCon ideas from Pete and the crew and Jesse, the white repaint with the red face. I don't think they'll do Farrak, personally. I could see them taking that mold and resculpting it and having new ideas out of it. But I don't know about... Kind of like how, they were able to do other stuff with that Cyclonus Combiner Wars one, and they did some Japanese repaints and stuff like that. I could see more of that happening. Maybe do a different color scheme of Cyclonus and have it be sweeps. Not sweeps, but and his Armada, his Armada guys. I don't know, but I can't see Farrak. I don't even think that trademark exists for Hasbro right now. So if they don't have the trademark, that's another thing too. They'll definitely not do something if they don't have a trademark. Hey Proto, have you ever built teepees or shoot the buffaloes? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. Let's see. Waited long enough to end up at Ollie's. Oh, yeah. Well, see what Chikala wrote here. Wait long enough and it'll end up in Ollie's, Ross, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and a lot of Siege did that. Yes, especially Siege. When that product got really old, a lot of that just started showing up on major clearance. And that's a reality, man. That's a reality. That kind of stuff, when it hits deep clearance, it makes people regret purchases. I mean, I picked up Siege Springer. A friend of mine picked it up for me when the sale was happening. I think it was $15 Canadian, which is like $13 American for a Voyager, and it's a great Siege Voyager like Springer. Man, it is what it is, though. Where are we at here? Who out of the 13 primes do you want Hasbro to make into the toy line? Well, I guess like someone like Solus hasn't really had a good representation. I'd love to see another Fallen toy, but Fallen's had enough toys at this point. Give me Prima. Just give me Prima. I know there's been like stand-in figures, like in the movie continuity. You could use your Protoform Optimus Prime as Prima, because he was used as a mold in one of the stories from the IDW comics. But like, just give me Prima with like, the Star Saber sword with the Matrix and the hilt. That'd be really freaking cool. Like, I'd really dig that. Or Solus with the Forge of Solus would be another really cool one. Any of them, really. Long overdue, those ones. Long overdue. I'd love to see those. Dear Proto, were you disappointed Exhaust never once turned into a living smoke on screen? No, not really. Exhaust never really was a character before that was defined. If there's one thing I was disappointed was that he didn't transform like most of the guys in the Earthrise cartoon. Talk about taking a budget cut there. No one transforms at all outside of Scorponok, Optimus. Like, you can literally count on one hand how many people actually transform. I think it was Scorponok, Optimus, Red Alert, Jetfire. Obviously the Seeker molds, they all transformed at different points or another. I think Megatron transformed for like a split second. Like, they really avoided having to deal with that. And all those new designs, like, Double Dealer didn't transform. Come on, man. Anyways, that's a whole other rant. Proto, do you think the Kingdom class figure would be Beast Wars Rampage? It would be cool. I don't think it is going to be Rampage. I think that's too far down the totem pole of like season 2 characters. I think they really need to still do season 1 stuff, but I think it'll be cool. But I don't think it will be Rampage. There's too many things saying otherwise. But we shall see in the future. Where are we at here? Proto, do you think we should use more of the Star Seekers? Well, like we had what was his name there? I'm looking right at him. Who was part of the Transformer Prime line? Forget his name. Oh my god. He was like the white one, the white and blue character. The problem with the Star Seekers is we're so far away from that being part of lore that we're familiar with today. They would have to be reintroduced, and then people would then be excited about them and then make toys of it. I always say that lore sells the toys in the same way that the cartoon back in the day, whether it be Beast Wars, G1, or whatever, sold the toys. The cartoon is a commercial for the product. And I mean, that was one of the big mistakes when it came with the Earthrise TV series on Netflix, is that you have all this stuff and it's like, oh, hey, here's this, here's that. Scorponok isn't in stores anymore. Does anyone even find Skylinks or most of those molds that were Siege toys that also rolled over? So to me, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe RC. Yeah, RC probably is still kicking around, but how much was she really involved in the story? So it's something that, to me, you have to have that synergy where what's on the screen is also available on the shelf for people to buy. And if you're going to do Star Seekers, have it be in the fiction before you get people excited about buying a product. That's how I just feel. Hey, Proto, do you think we'll get a Select Shattered Glass Thundercracker, a.k.a. UK Action Master Thundercracker? I love that color scheme. I'd like that. We did a segment a while back called What Bar? It was an homage to a wrestling podcast I watched where I'll show a Transformer and you have to with weird colors, and you'll have to say what chocolate bars or stuff look like that color scheme. If you go on the Transformer Slag podcast archive, just type like what bar Transformer Slag, and you'll see we did one segment of it, and a lot of people tuned in on it and gave us their ideas from the patrons and stuff like that. But I would love to see Action Master Thundercracker. I have the BotCon one. I have the original. So they get his Shattered Glass version, which is pretty much the same thing. It'd be really cool. I don't know if they'd be so bold to do it, but they've done weirder stuff. It would be a Hasbro Selects thing. It would be like a Hasbro Pulse Selects kind of release. It would not be retail. That is too garish for retail. Even me who loves it, I think that would be too crazy. Too crazy. They wouldn't take that risk. Hey Proto, is Kingdom actually going to be released Netflix May 30th? Yes, that is the confirmed date, according to Netflix. All the stuff that I have everywhere is official stuff from Netflix. Hey Proto, been a while. My opinion on Netflix series has been mixed. Do you think the Beast Wars characters are going to help the show if it is done right? The problem that I think when it comes to the Beast Wars characters is, number one, if Siege going to Netflix was any indication, we're not going to get a lot of new molds or new character models. So I don't think we're going to get a lot more characters. Like, we're going to go into Kingdom and we'll probably get 5 new characters. Cheetor, Primal, Beast Wars Megatron. The Galvatron mold is already introduced, so I won't even count that. Maybe a Dinobot was just shown to us, and maybe Black Arachnia. We'll probably get 5. And then of those 5, heaven help us with those voice actors. Because our Beast Wars voice actors were Union voice actors. Gary Chalk, Scott McNeil, David Kay, the most talented individuals on the planet. I've said it many times. They're not going to be able to be involved because Netflix doesn't use Union voice actors. So whoever they're going to hire is going to probably disappoint you. You're not going to get an Ian Corlett Cheetor. You're not going to get a Gary Chalk Optimus Primal. You're not going to get a David Kay Beast Wars Megatron. You're not going to get a Scott McNeil Dinobot. And you're sure as heck not going to get a Venus Black Arachnia. So it's going to be whoever they hire. And no offense to the people who are doing the voice acting. Maybe it's the voice directors or being in the booth, alone in the booth scenario that leads to understellar performances. But the characters, I just have my... When you have a series like Beast Wars that's coming up to 25 years now, it's 25 years old, and it still does a better job in CG and telling a story than Siege does, something's wrong with your series. It's not, there's budgetary issues, writing issues, voice acting issues. It's the whole thing. It's a solid 7. It's watchable, but it's not something I'd write home about. Where we at? If I miss questions, guys, just repeat them again, because sometimes stuff gets pushed up when people send messages. Where are we at here? Hey, Proto, do you believe will the next Transformers After War for Cybertron Kingdom? Sorry if I asked this question already. I think what you're trying to ask is what would be the next series? Whatever sells. If Kingdom is a blockbuster and does insanely well, we're going to have more Beast Wars stuff. If it doesn't do well, or if it's kind of in the middle, Hasbro's going to pivot. And where's that going to be? Probably Unicron Trilogy. Maybe revisit G1 again. Maybe go in a weird direction of G1. Focus on Micromasters more. Focus more on Target Masters. Focus again on Headmasters again. Maybe revisit the Pretender Shell idea. Maybe go to Action Masters. Even though we kind of have that already with the RED line in a lot of ways. But I don't think they'll ever do something like Action Masters again, actually, now that I think about it. It goes against everything that they do. But it'll be something different. The one thing is Transformers always has to evolve and be different in order to survive. And when something sells ridiculously well, they keep doing the same thing until it doesn't sell, and then they do something different. Gimmicks are born out of necessity. They're not born out of, just wanting to have fun. If they know that they could sell you Seeker Jets straight up repainted without giving you new stuff, they're going to do it. If you stop buying it, then they're going to be like, okay, we got to change the Seeker Jets and give people something different. Where are we at? You think Needlenose could finally get a toy, or after losing 2 fan polls, it's too late? No, he'll still get a toy. He'll still get a toy because Needlenose is a trademark that exists. They're going to do something. The fan polls are, you're going to get it sooner, but you're still going to get the other stuff later. Think about everyone that's more or less been in those fan polls. They sooner or later bubble up to the front. I worked on Needlenose. The last Needlenose toy that came out was, his bio was written by me by Fun Publication. I wrote that bio a while back. 2015, I want to say. And that trademark is still kicking around. So we'll see what happens with that. Proto, can you use your influence to get a Commander Thunderclash? It wouldn't even make sense to do that. Because think about it. If the Commander class is a Thunderclash, then that would imply in 2023, that would imply that the theme is going to be UK-based Transformers. So if the theme next year is not UK-based Transformers, I don't think Thunderclash would make sense, regardless of what we want. It all has to make sense. You know what I mean? Like, in all honesty, if the G1 guys were not part of the Beast Wars mix, then Rodimus being there would actually be a stupid idea. You know? Dear Proto, how would the 5th and 6th season of G1, would they have introduced Pretenders? Well, yeah, I think that if you ignore what Japan did, because obviously 5 and 6 would have been Headmasters and Master Force, which is Headmasters and Pretenders and Target Masters. I think they would have sooner or later gotten around to it. It would have been more of a Nebulan influence. It'd be, you know, how season 4 handled Headmasters as opposed to how the Japanese Headmasters cartoon handled Headmasters. You would have had more of that. I think you would have a lot more similar to what the Marvel comics were doing, where the Headmasters, and then you have the Headmaster, like the classic Pretenders with Bumblebee and Jazz. Like, I think you would have saw more of that. Would have been pretty cool. I would have dug it. But I think that they would have totally done that. They would have used what Bob and Simon Furman were building up in the comics as a template for what would have probably been in the series. Because they would always kind of do it first, too. Comic books have an easier turnaround as opposed to animation. So they were doing it all first, way before. Hey, Proto, should I get the normal Kingdom Cheetor or wait for the Netflix Cheetor? Well, it's how long you're willing to wait. I think that Netflix Cheetor looks way better. So if you're only going to buy one, and you have the opportunity to pick up that Netflix Cheetor with no issue, yeah, I'd wait. If money is tight, I'd wait and get the better one. And if money is tight and you wait to get the better one and it doesn't show up, I guarantee at some point that Kingdom Cheetor is going to be on special and you'll be able to go back and get it cheaper than just buying it now. But it's all about patience. And that's the big problem for a lot of people, is they don't have the patience. How likely is it we'd get some victory stuff in the future? Maybe Commander Starsaber. I would love to see a Commander class Starsaber. A while back, I posted on Twitter my idea of taking the Commander class Double Dealer and turning it into Deathsaurus from Transformers Victory. Like, it's straight up Deathsaurus. Like, you could literally pull it off with like just a repaint and a couple retooling. And I almost feel like I think that's still going to be a reality in the future. I think we're going to get Deathsaurus at some point, and it's going to come from that Double Dealer mold from Commander class. And if there is a Deathsaurus, guess who is going to join him? They even said in the past that they want to get rid of the Titan class and do 2 Commander classes a year instead. Instead of like 1 Titan, we'll get 2 Commanders. And if there's 2 Commanders and you have a Deathsaurus, someone's got to oppose him. And he is a Brainumasta. Hey, Proto, what's the deal with the MP Dinobots? Do you think Takara will redo Grimlock and do the other 4? I think what'll probably happen is when they finally get around to doing the other Dinobots, Grimlock will get a reissue. It's kind of like how we had MP Lambor, aka Sideswipe, and then there was a huge span of time before Sunstreaker came out. And when Sunstreaker came out, they went back and reissued and redid Lambor, aka Sideswipe. So I could see them, if they do get around to doing another Dinobot, they'll bring back Grimlock to make another sale. But I think at the moment right now, I think they're going to be focusing on Studio Series 86 Dinobots. That's going to have to be your go-to for more higher-end official Dinobot toys until Masterpiece does something. I mean, there's so much third-party stuff right now, but I'm just saying from an official capacity, I think it's going to be Studio Series 86 that's going to be our Dinobots for a while, like G1 Dinobots for a very while. That's the general consensus. Hey Proto, when do you think all the exclusives will come back into stock? Probably never. Unfortunately, a lot of times with Hasbro Pulse, at least, if that's what you're referring to, they have a limited amount of stock. They sell it, and then when it sells out, that's it. And they're like, hey, we won. Because when they sell out, that's actually a good thing. You know, they're happy with it, and they don't want to have to go back to the factory and produce more and run the risk of it not selling. It's easier to turn to your boss and go, hey, we produced the product, we made X amount of units, it sold out. He's going to get a pat on the back. If he says, hey, and then people wanted more, so we made more, and then we put it on the store, and 20% of them sold to make up for the people that couldn't get it, but we're stuck with the other 80% in the store, and it's taking space in the warehouse. That's not good. And then that guy's job gets in trouble. So that's the thing. We have a super chat question. Again, super chats get priority over everybody. Brogan Brainstorm says, weeks ago, asked about Earthrise, Prowl, and Ironhide. You said probably not happening. They restocked, sold out, got them. You're still more right than wrong on Patreon. Well, it happens. Sometimes they do get stock. Sometimes they have overstock. Sometimes there's warehouse finds. Just recently, they had, what was that just showed up on the website? The Scorponok started showing up like crazy. They had a huge warehouse find. It happens. It happens sometimes. But the thing in the case of the Earthrise, Prowl, and Ironhide, that's Amazon. Amazon is a whole other animal. I don't even know what their agreements are, but it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy what their agreements are because they have a lot of stuff locked in for a while. So I could be wrong sometimes. It happens. But there's a whole bunch of different factors when it comes to these exclusives because this is the first time ever in Transformers that we've had this much product allocated to exclusives ever. Like Siege wasn't like that. Way before that, when we had the Prime Wars trilogy, we didn't have like 50 different things that were, oh, this is going to be exclusive, this is going to be exclusive, this is going to be exclusive. This is the first time we've had something like that. So there's not a lot of information to use to learn from. Like, we're all experiencing this for the first time, and we're going to look back and use that as information to learn that. It happens. Protoman, what's your favorite line of Headmaster's infamous English dub? There's that line, darn you, Soundwave, when he died, and then Galvatron does that terrible scream. You're referring to the Star TV Malaysian dubs, right? I like the Master Force ones. There's a lot of really dumb stuff because they kept all the English names for all the human characters. So like Ginrai calls himself Optimus Prime and Minerva calls herself Nightbeat. So, dear Proto, I understand how easy it is to copy Has-Tac molds into knockoffs, but how does Fan Toys manage to stop that? Are they really that powerful? It's not that they stop that. It's that in the mind of most people, if they're going to buy a bootleg, they're going to want a bootleg of official product. As much as there is a niche community that collects third party, it still is a niche community. There's still, like, you know, at the end of the day, you know, there's going to be more, like, you could say, oh, here's third party, what was it called there? Giant, the third party Devastator. And then you have the less better version, even in my opinion, I'll say the engineering is less better, Combiner Wars 1. Combiner Wars 1 sold way more units than the third party one. So it's, if you're a bootlegger, you're going to want to bootleg something that people are more interested in buying more units of. And in the bootlegging world, people want bootlegs of official product. They don't want bootlegs of third-party product. There used to be bootlegs of third-party product. They're like back in the day, Fans Project had a big problem with that. A lot of people were bootlegging their third-party stuff, like City Commander and Shadow Scyther and all of that. And that stuff just kind of sat around afterwards. Because then people were like, why would I buy a bootleg of a bootleg, technically? Some, Inception stuff going on there. Do you think we'll get some other combiners like Trains or maybe Monstructor? Sooner or later. I think sooner or later. I think we were supposed to find out about this Masterpiece Raiden, and that all kind of, hit the fan. So that would have told us more about Trains, but we'll see what happens with that. Dear Proto, I want a third gray battle charger named Runaround. He's characterized as Jerry Lewis, and he was a Decepticon. Well, contact Hasbro. I'm sure they'd love to hear your idea. Hey, Proto, do you like the Last Night Hot Rod design? I honestly liked it. I don't know. I kind of look at him and I go, like, if they would have called him, like, let's say we never got a movie design of Cliffjumper, like the red repaint of Bumblebee's mold, pretty much. I think if they would have called him Cliffjumper, I would have believed it more. Like, he looks like a Cliffjumper kind of character, ignoring the alt mode, which is very sports car like. They could have called him Cliffjumper and I would have believed it. They could have called him Sideswipe and I'd believe it. What is Hot Rod about Hot Rod in the movie? Not much. Did I like the design? It's a nice car. Orange is kind of a weird color for Hot Rod, but it was okay. It was okay. I didn't hate it. Him being French was kind of a weird twist. And I'm French, so I found that kind of weird too. Ben oui, c'est bizarre. Do you think we will get a Studio Series Perceptor? I could see that. I think he'll be one of the next ones, in all honesty. We had a Titans Return Perceptor. And then after that, was there a Tiny Titans they did? Did they do a Tiny Titans Perceptor? I'm trying to remember. But yeah, I think he could be probably one of the next ones that'll happen. Will be Perceptor, Rekgar. Think of what Hasbro isn't doing in Kingdom and what Hasbro isn't doing like in other areas, and that'll give you an idea of probably what's going to happen there. Faux show. Hey Proto, why do Hasbro not make games like War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron anymore? Because Hasbro wasn't the one making the games. It was High Moon Studio, who was a bunch of people that were very dedicated and hard workers, and they would put a lot of time and money into their games and focus and budget to actually their detriment. Because while War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron were amazing games and sold very well by guys who would work really hard and invest a lot of money into making their games amazing, they got another license, a Deadpool game, and it tanked, and it absolutely destroyed the whole company. So all it took was them putting that same time and effort into another game, and it destroyed the company. And that's a lesson to a lot of other companies where it's like, hey, we could make an amazing Transformer game, but if it doesn't work out, all that time and energy might be for naught. Or we can make a mediocre Transformer game, and if it doesn't do well, we didn't invest that much, so it's not that big a deal. So that's what I think is more happened with that, and unfortunately why I don't think we'll get a good War or Fall of Cybertron level game for a while, which sucks because I loved those games. They were amazing. I put way too many hours into it. But yeah. Dear Proto, would you like to write a Mayhem Attack Squad-centric miniseries? Well, number one, if it's a miniseries, probably would have to be Netflix, so we'll start with that. Who would be your point of view character? My friend Spinny Boy is currently developing his own Mayhem stop-motion series. Well, if you're doing something that's from a Decepticon side point of view, which is already like you have to really pick characters that are interesting. I don't want to give away too much because then I'm just giving away my own ideas, but I'll just say Thunderwing and just leave it at that. Don't want to give away the milk for free. Get someone to buy it. Michael D wants to know, thank you for the super chat question, Michael D. Thank you so much. Super chat always helps the podcast. Heard you're from Canadian, friends. and that TF prices jumped up there a few years ago way more than other parts of the world. Any insight on that and why? Essentially, the Canadian dollar to the American dollar always has shifted up and down like crazy. And we're going to get into inside baseball here for a second. During the Clinton administration, when Bill Clinton was president, the Canadian dollar was... We used to joke the Canadian dollar was called the 50-cent American coin. That's how bad the Canadian dollar was at one point during Bill Clinton's administration. And I'm not blaming Bill. When the Canadian dollar is not doing good, that means Bill is doing great in America. So, and this is coming from a Canadian. So when the American dollar was destroying the Canadian dollar, that means that whatever we charge for our product has to be comparable in comparison. So in a world where this is a $10 product, American, and it's 50 cents on the dollar Canadian, that means this $10 product's now $20 Canadian, just for simple math there. But the problem is the dollars went up and down, Bush administration, recession happened, oh my God, Canadian dollar is now ahead of the American dollar, that didn't last long, Obama happens, goes back down, it was all over the place. The prices never adjusted. And companies never adjusted. So they just played it safe, and they just always left it above and always higher. And we pay more, even to this day. If you actually look at what Canadians pay for a Transformer and what Americans do, and you did the exchange rate, it's still cheaper to buy it in the States. It always is. It always will be. Sometimes I buy exclusives off of Amazon.com instead of Amazon.ca and pay for the shipping, because it still ends up cheaper in the end than the free shipping I get from Canada. It's crazy, but that's Transformer finance. That's a whole other thing. Like, I don't want to like pimp my Patreon, but when you're part of my Patreon, I discuss that so often with my Patreon people and the people that are part of the Patreon Discord, because there's so many freaking little things that come with people, how they could save money in this hobby and where they waste money in other areas. And being a Canadian collector, whew, there's a lot of different loopholes you got to jump through. But yeah, thank you for the super chat question, brother. Thank you so much. Hey, Proto, how do the Cyberverse Quintessons with Starscream face sound to you? Oh, you're saying if they did a toy? Well, this goes back to what I was saying before. That would be cool if it would have came out 5-6 months ago when that was something on television. It's not anymore, so it's not something that's topical. It's kind of like, let me just grab this for a second. It's kind of like how this was topical 5-6 months ago. You know, oh, hey, Sharkticons and a stealth hot rod when season 3 rolled around. But when it's not topical on television, do you want to make product that doesn't match what, you know, imagine like we make that Quintesson Starscream, release it 5 months from now. No one's going to, like, you know, the new viewers are not going to know what that is. And that's a big problem, is that when you don't have what's matching the screen, you lose sales. And you lose new customers too, because they're confused and they don't understand what they're looking at. Dear Proto, what is your favorite and least favorite Decepticon character from Transformer Victory? Favorite would have to be... Hellbat's pretty cool, just because he's different, and he's like this tragic character who's a coward, who killed, you know, Death Cobra accidentally. Deathsaurus is a pretty cool character. He's pretty badass. Who else? Not a lot. Dino King guys are okay. The whole Dino Force, I guess. They're cute. Least favorite? Who's boring? I'm just trying to think. Who's a boring character? I don't know. Let's go with Kill Bison. One of the Lyozak components, just because his toy is fragile. Let's go with that one. There's not really a boring Decepticon, because there's just characters that don't do anything. So I don't have a least favorite, but he's boring, I guess. Yo Proto, why don't Hasbro give the Dinobots a show or other seems? I'm sure it would make money. Well, We have supposedly there's going to be a. This is just what we've read online from magazines. There's going to be a Transformers Cyberverse 2 TV movies, and they're going to be Dinobot based, like G1 Dinobot based. So when those come out, we'll see what the ratings are on those, and that might give you an idea of what that would lead to. Hey, Proto, would you want a G1 version of Lockdown? You know what? Sometimes I'm not a big fan of reverse engineering characters from other continuities. Like, you don't need to have like a G1 Striker. You don't need to have like a G1 Lugnut. Some characters just are characters of those continuities. I know that fans like the idea of it because they get to see different versions of characters they enjoy from other continuities, but sometimes you don't need that. You know, it's a lot easier to take a G1 version and then throw it into a new continuity, but to do it backwards, I don't know. I'm not too big a fan of that. You know, like it's the same way how like I really like. Let me think of a good animated example that's a unique character. You know, like I really like Prowl in animated. I wouldn't like the aspects of Prowl being reversed back into his G1 counterpart and stuff. Let them be their own things in a lot of ways. Dear Proto, if the Star Seekers have existed back in the 80s, how would you have incorporated them into Season 3? Well, Season 3, if they were involved in it, like Thundertron and Cannonball, they probably would have been a one-episode thing. I imagine Flint Dille would have been like, okay, we're gonna visit this planet, and this planet is going to have mercenaries or the Star Seekers or something of that equivalency, and it's going to be a one-episode thing. And then Cannonball would have been a repaint of, let me see, Season 3, 86 toys. Let's go with an extensive repaint retool of Minibot, Outback, and Thundertron. Oof. We didn't really get into those guys unless they want to grab a Rampage of the Predaking mold, I guess. But even then, that'd be weird. But yeah, that's what would probably happen. I could see that. Be fun. Where are we at here? Dear Proto, wasn't that Combiner Starscream going to be a retool in the Star Saber? And what about a Lyozak retool? Well, there was a lot of rumors of that. Nothing ever came of it. We never found out what happened in the end. And Lyozak... See, the thing is like, we had, like, the Bakan stuff. But the thing is that you want to have... At the end of the day, you want to have, like, a true representation. Like, you wouldn't want a Lyozak figure unless he's going to be, like, doing some Combiner stuff. In the same way that people are not going to want a Scavenger figure that's a Constructicon character that doesn't combine. They want to have those versions. They want to have that gimmick, played into with it. So we'll see what happens. We'll definitely see what happens. Where are we at here? Dear Proto, how would you design a Chug version of Beast Wars Spidor? Well, he's a frog, probably aquatic based. So obviously some kind of aquatic vehicle. Keep that color scheme, the clears of like the clear dark blues with the orange patterns. So how do you apply that to some kind of an aquatic vehicle? He's a frog. Do you want to keep some kind of spring gimmick? Some kind of jumping gimmick. Make him a hovercraft, kind of like, Sea Spray. Make him an inner tube, because frogs, they expand when they breathe. There's all kinds of clever stuff you could do. It sounds like a BotBot's idea if he was an inner tube. Nice little donut. Where are we at? We have half an hour left, my friends, by the way. Dear Proto, if Strike and Obsidian had existed back in the 80s, who would you have cast as voices for them? So, supposedly, the wiki, which sometimes I'm not a fan of when they do this, they retconned certain characters in the background as like, oh, that character there, that character in the background that never had a line, never talked, and never was credited as that character. Yeah, that's G1 Striker. That's G1 Striker. So if you actually go on the wiki, you actually see what G1 Striker was supposed to look like. supposedly, which is, I don't believe that for a second, but that's what they do. They do stuff like that on the wiki. So sometimes you shouldn't take everything you read on the wiki at face value, unfortunately. Some stuff is a little bit fanon. But who would they be voiced by? Strika for sure. If it was the 80s, the voice actress for Baroness from G.I. Joe, it would be the same voice crew. Obsidian. Who has an Obsidian kind of voice from the 80s crew? I guess you could ask like Neil Ross to do like a badass kind of voice or something, like a deep voice. I could see that. Like if he's doing like his Springer, but give it like a deeper kind of thing. That'd be kind of cool. Dear Protoman, since Earthrise is doing all this weathering effects, do you think Studio Series 86 will do this idea and make a gray Optimus utterly destroyed by Megatron? We did have a death of Optimus. That was our Amazon exclusive. That wasn't Studio Series 86, but it might as well have been. Probably at some point we'll get a battle damaged Optimus with a little bit of damage here. Who knows? Who knows? We'll see. I don't think they will, though. That leader class mold is getting too much traction already. We got another super chat. Nice yellow super chat by the Axe to the Head. Hey, Proto, something that still impresses me about the franchise is that you can build out the ranks of an army of both factions without the need for army builders. I'd still kill for a new Auto Trooper. Well, that's the thing that I've always loved about Transformers, is that, especially for Americans, they would understand this. As a Canadian, this is how anyone who's familiar with Civil War reenactment people, who like they obsess over like, here's this giant army, but yet every person had their own individual story. Every commander, every general, every lieutenant, every private had their own story. And Civil War reenactment people, you know, it could be like a group of like 80 guys, and each one is reliving that story of that individual that they're playing. And that's what I love about Transformers, is that every single person is part of this giant war, and they all have their own story and their own tech spec and everything like that. And I've loved that about Transformers, is that you could build these giant armies of all these characters that all have their own backgrounds and why they joined the war and how it affected them and who they lost in the war and why they were on the Autobots. And, you know, that was always something that I find absolutely amazing about Transformers. And it's something that kills me when I see series that don't do character development. Like when Earthrise did that one part with Megatron, where it's like you kind of got a little bit of character development. He's doubting himself. Should I close? I think it was Sector 12, you know? It's like, oh, you know, like there was character development there. And then we didn't see that ever again, unfortunately. It's such a shame. But yeah, I absolutely, I love that. I love that to death about Transformers. Like, I'm living in a giant army building environment, you know what I mean? Like all of this madness, you know? And then on the other side too, sorry, I can't turn the camera all the way because it's a little stuck down there on my big stand, but you know, and then all here and everywhere. So trust me, I'm living in the army. But thank you for the question so much. The Axe to the Head. Thank you very, very much. Very good question. Dear Proto, do you ever think we will get new figures of the Omnibots, Sparkbots, or Firebots at some point? Omnibots, 2 of them are trademark names that constantly come up. So the Omnibots bots for sure. The others, unfortunately, a lot of those trademarks have expired, and it's just really a matter of, you know, do they want to do, like you have like Repugnus, which was one of the old larger monster Sparkbots and stuff, but a lot of those other guys, even the smaller ones, I don't know, probably not. I would like it, but Hasbro really isn't going in that direction right now. I'd like them to prove me wrong, though. I'd love it if they proved me wrong. Hey, Proto, are you reading the current run of IDW? And if so, what are your thoughts? I am right now. I don't want to spoil too much. Galaxies is really good. That book I really enjoy. The main ongoing, not really feeling it. It still needs momentum to kind of pick up. The Valentine's Day special one-shot was really good. I haven't started reading the Terminator books, but I've heard really good things about it with Alex Milne. I haven't read the Back to the Future ones yet, so I don't know anything about those. And what other books do I have? I haven't been to my comic book store, by the way, in 2 months because of like lockdowns and stuff. So, what else am I missing that I haven't seen yet? I didn't read the Star Trek one. I didn't pick that one up at all. So that one I can't tell you. But I like the Galaxies books. Those are really good. I don't want to go too deep into it because some people haven't read. I still sometimes don't even want to talk about the old IDW stuff because still some people are still discovering it for the first time. But I like it. I like it a lot. Hey Proto, who from Transformers history would you add to the mercenary faction? Well, obviously, like something like Lockdown is a given. I could see characters who used to be part of the mercenary faction and then joined the Decepticons or vice versa. Like someone like Swindle is so associated with Bruticus and the Combaticons, but he is so a mercenary character. Like he is so an arms dealer. Like playing both sides. Like Swindle for sure, but he's so tied to Bruticus that you just slap that Decepticon logo on him every single time. Like there's so many characters that have that kind of like half kind of thing that they could be a mercenary character. Someone like Octane that kind of like 1 foot out the door. That's just a few. I could give you more, but you never give the milk away for free. Dear Proto, how would you incorporate the Seacons into Season 3? Well, I think that would have been way too early because of their toy releases. If you're referring to Season 3 G1, they wouldn't have time for it. Most of the stories of Season 3 were traveling in space. You weren't really near a body of water unless you were on a planet that had a body of water. And most of the planets that they visited were more of these futuristic, bubble city kind of stuff and everything. And you didn't really see water because most of the aliens were semi-organic, metallic, and it was, so I don't think they would have worked in Season 3 because of how Season 3 was being told. Hey Proto, other than maybe Minerva or Botanica, which female characters do you like to see get a new toy that hasn't got one in a long time? Let me think about that one for a second. Obviously Transmutate is a given. That's one that is desperately needs a toy. Hasn't got one in a while. Who else hasn't gotten a good one in a while? I would like if what they really need to do is I'd like it if they tackled Firestar, aka whatever the trademark is now they use for her, which is like Novastar or whatever. But do Firestar, but do her really show accurate. Like how she looked in Search for Alpha Trion. Like when she met with Inferno and stuff and she had her design. That was like a truck. I'd like Firestar to get redone again. There's a bunch of other female characters too. Like when we fall into characters that never got toys before. But you had like Lyzak, which was Lyozak's wife. Which, let me just grab the manga. I don't want to spoil too much. But let's go to Lyzak. Lyzak, who is a female. Come on, there you go. Whatever loads. Come on, there. Like female versions of stuff. From Victory. You could stuff like that. Give them toys for the very first time. Would it happen? Probably not, but it'd be cool. There's what I would like to see, but then there's what realistically makes sense for business. And that's why I've always had that dichotomy. Hey, Proto, have you heard about the content of the Kingdom spoiler box set? No, I have not. I have not heard anything. Is it anything that's credible, or is it just more fugazi? They say it is, but it is. Yeah. I know a guy who works at Hasbro, and he says the spoiler box set is totally going to be Transmutate with Dinobot done in Grimlock colors. Hey Proto, instead of major characters like Ratchet, Prowl, and Thrust, who would you rather have as exclusives? I've said this always, is you should always make the obscure characters the tougher toys to get. And I'll tell you why. because obscure characters already have lower sales. So if you put it in retail, they're already going to have lower sales. But if you put it as an exclusive, all of a sudden that forbidden fruit that no one cared about, now people are like, oh, now I want to get it. That's why, like, some of the most valuable toys are always of the weirdest characters. Like when you look at the most valuable Ninja Turtle toys, and they're always characters that are not well known or popular, or like other obscure toy lines and stuff. And there's reasons for that, distribution reasons and everything. But you should always make the harder the stuff get also the more obscure characters. It's just how it should be. The problem is that a lot of these exclusives, when they make deals with the companies, give an example, like Amazon probably tells them, we want your top tier characters to be the exclusives, and we're going to pay X amount of money to make sure we get those top tier characters. And then Hasbro probably goes, look, like, if you want to get an Ironhide or a Ratchet, you're going to have to pay X. And they probably pay X. And then they make Y from everyone who buys it when it sells out. So, as much as I feel they should do obscure characters, they probably won't, because Hasbro is encouraged by the companies that pay to do those exclusives to do more upper crust characters. Obviously, there's weird stuff put in there too, like that mask set that we got. But in general, I would prefer weird characters. Like if you're going to do an exclusive set in limited numbers where you could have fun, that's where you do Minerva. That's where you do DevCon. That's where you do, your Thunderclash that someone wanted, because it's obscure, it's not mass retail, you're not stepping on any toes. It's not, if it doesn't sell well, it's not going to clog shelving because it's an exclusive. So it's a lot better than taking a Skywarp mold and making that an exclusive, or a Thrust and making that an exclusive and angering everybody. So that's more or less that answer. Hey Proto, Pterosaur got a BotCon exclusive in 2016-2017. It would be perfect in timing if he got a new Pterosaur. Assuming that's what you were trying to type there. Yeah, well, that Pterosaur figure was pretty cool, but it was obviously a pre-Earth Cybertronian Pterosaur. I would like to get a new Pterosaur toy. It's just a matter if they want to do one. Maybe we'll get it out of an extensive repaint remold out of AirRazor. Who knows? Maybe one day. But if this is any indication, probably not anytime soon. What ancient animal that already don't have a figure would you like to see become a new Transformer? Three-headed Hydra, has that been done yet? Yes, it has actually, technically, through Scourge, aka Flame Convoy. We had a Griffin from, technically, Silverbolt from Beast Wars. Who else do we have? What other mythical creatures? Some kind of Medusa, multiple snake kind of thing. I don't know. That's not really a mythical creature. A Minotaur. Yeah, but see, then that's like an upright thing, and that technically, if you want to count Duros, aka Skullgrin from the Pretenders, that's kind of a Minotaur. There's a lot of weird stuff. I don't know. I can't really think of, like, you'd have to tell me creatures, and then I'd have to crunch my brain and see who would work for that. But yeah. My friend's cousin's uncle's dog's roommate works at Hasbro. Of course he does. Is that behind you, the McDonald's Unicron? If it is, I have it too. Yes, it is. Are you from the UK by any chance? Because that was a UK exclusive. That beautiful little black McDonald's Unicron. The smallest Unicron toy ever made, officially. Dear Proto, if you could only remove one element from the 2007 movie, what would it be? Shia LaBeouf is off the table. Well, I wouldn't take Shia out of it. It would be less of an emphasis on the human element. And I understand why the movie succeeded when it did, but if it's something that I would have wanted, you would have... Here's how you tell the story. The arrival to Earth is telling, like the beginning of the movie, telling the story of the arrival of the Autobots to Earth and talking amongst each other, hiding among the bushes and everything and getting their alt modes. Focusing on that character development and them talking about each other. Or you could just open the movie and spend the first 30 minutes introducing the army guys, which they did. Or you could talk about the Decepticons then arriving on Earth, and Scorponok and Blackout, and talking amongst each other and developing those characters on how they're going to infiltrate and learn about Project Iceman. Or you could just have Blackout show up and kill a bunch of humans and focus on the human side of that story and not have Blackout talk at all. And then Scorponok show up, not talk at all, kill the humans, create drama on the human side of that. That's the problem that I have, is that there was so much focus on the human element and the human point of view that, I mean, you could count on one hand how many characters who were robots had lines. And the movie's called Transformers. You want to build those characters. People didn't see like stuff for the first time like Guardians of the Galaxy, which were all these characters that were not pre-established with a mainstream audience. When people learned of Star-Lord for the first time, they fell in love with him because they focused on Star-Lord. They didn't fall in love with him because 18 other human background characters were the focus instead, and we were told to love Star-Lord, who's the main brand. But yet, here's Optimus Prime, here's Bumblebee, here's Jazz. We're expected to buy toys of those guys, even though the focus of the movie is all these human characters that, if they were lucky, had like a little PVC figure from the battle scenes box sets or something, which were like store exclusives. Like, hey, where's my Josh Duhamel action figure and all his 50 repaints if he was literally the focus of the movie? Where's my Shia LaBeouf figure and his 50 repaints if he was literally the focus of the movie? That's bad writing and bad marketing and bad movie marketing, because now you're not synergizing your products with what's on the screen. Did the movie make money? Of course it did. But it didn't make money for the reasons that you think it did. That's the problem. Where are we at here? Where are we at? Hi, Proto, it seems like Kingdom Air Razor has square hole pegs on her back. Do you think those peg holes are for future repaint, like Laserbeak? Some people speculated that it was going to be used for, like, oh, you could clip on a character, you know, put Rat Trap on the back, holding on the back, but that wasn't the case, because then when people actually got Rat Trap in hand, the little core class, it didn't fit. There was no little pegs that he could fit on, and because there was that one episode where Rat Trap was hanging on for dear life on Air Razor's back. People think that it might be part of a retooling for a future character. Some people have speculated that that tooling is actually part of a combiner piece, and that the rumors about Air Razor being turned into Skywarp, aka Combiner Magnaboss Silverbolt, it leads credence to that. I don't know. I'm not the first person to say it, so don't take it from me. I'm just repeating what I read. So we don't know what those squares are. It's obviously for something for a future retooling or repaint. Or I haven't messed with it yet. Any of those fossilizers peg into those holes? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just for the play pattern. Smashdown is a Minotaur. Literally have him on my desk. I was trying to do a photo shoot with him where he uses his little thing as like an umbrella, like a Japanese style umbrella, paper umbrella. I like him. He's a really cool little figure. He would be voiced by The Rock. That's who he'd voice him. The Brahma Bull. Dear Proto, you mentioned you grew up watching a lot of Afro cinema. Any favorites? Oh man, Black Belt Jones comes to mind right away. A lot of Black Belt Jones, Dolomite, obviously Shaft, but Shaft is always the go-to for so many. Oh man, Coffee. Everyone anyone who's under 18, don't Google Coffee, but Coffee is another one. I used to go when I was like 11 years old, 12 years old. I used to go to play video game arcades in a video store, rental video store, when those things still existed. And the owner of the store, like 90% of the store was all like foreign films and Filipino films and like he had anime like back in like the late 80s, early 90s, Akira and Tank Police and what's it called there, Venus Wars, all like early anime stuff. And he had a lot of blaxploitation films. And A lot of kung fu too, kung fu films, all those Bruce Lee exploitation films, which weren't really Bruce Lee. There were people taking advantage of his name. Bruce Lee, back from the dead. Exit the dragon, enter the tiger. Oh man, brings back memories. But yeah, I'd have to go with Black Belt Jones, with the legendary, the legendary, what was it, the car wash fight scene, which is as crazy as it sounds. But yeah, I haven't thought about that stuff in years. Dear Proto, would you like some cassette bots for Siege Soundwave, Sound Blaster out of Siege Laserbeak and Ravage, Frenzy, and other mini cassettes? There's a lot of easy repaints that they obviously didn't go with. They could have easily taken the Ravage and done, Kiss Play repaints easily of Glit and Rosanna and Sundor and all of those. But they just didn't. Probably because they just didn't have the slots, to release them, and they probably weren't interested for, exclusives or HasLab or not HasLab, Hasbro Pulse and stuff like that. How did Starscream turn back into a ghost at the end of Ghost in the Machine? He was seen getting shot a lot when he was spinning around, like when he was going and they were shooting him. So the assumption is he got killed again when he was brought back to life by Unicron. That's the assumption. And then I guess maybe he died going back in time, and now his body's abandoned, and now he's a floating spark forever. I don't know. Never was explained. One of the many plot holes of of American G1. Hey, Protoman, have you ever wondered what Titan combiners would look like? Well, we had one in Devastator, like Metroplex combined with other Titans. Oh, you're referring to like Scramble City stuff. Because Metroplex, technically, his original toy, could combine with the combiners. Technically, they could peg into the holes. Yeah, that would have been cool. They didn't keep... And again, that was a Scramble City idea that existed from the old 85, 86, 87 stuff that just didn't transfer over when they were doing Generations. But in a lot of ways, I feel that first Metroplex, that first Titan Metroplex, which was the first Titan, that was also kind of intended to kind of also be like a Fall of Cybertron thing. Like it leaned more towards what the video games were doing, even though it was released in a line with other stuff. So I think that was never like, they didn't want to have that synergy with the combiners. But I'm pretty sure if we do get a Metroplex ever again, they'll probably think about it. It'll probably cross their minds. Dear Proto, do you think we will ever get a Selects Goldbug? I think we'll get Goldbug at some point. They like doing gold repaints of Bumblebee. It's easy money. We'll get a Goldbug at some point. Stephen Joyce, one of our patrons, wants to know, are we getting a Slammer toy? Stephen? Yes, we are. Number 5 on the list over there. He is confirmed. The general assumption is he's going to be a heavy retool of Warpath. That's the belief. It's not confirmed. That's just what people think. And I'd agree with them. What about a Generation Selects Knockout being a Jazz remold? Yeah, I could see that. If they take the Studio Series 86 Jazz, do a heavy remold of it, I could see that happening. People love Knockout. They love that character. And he won the fan poll, whatever, for the Hall of Fame. So they're going to do something. Supposedly he's going to be part of the RED line. Like he's going to be in part of that or something. We're going to get one of him. So we'll see what happens with Knockout. If the RED one sells well, Hasbro will take notice. Dear Proto, how would you incorporate the deluxe Insecticons into the Generation 1 cartoon? Bandai dispute be damned. They would have had an episode where they show up and they would be the elite squad of Insecticons that reel in the more smaller Insecticons that were kind of... Because if you actually remember how the G1 Insecticons were, a lot of people forget this, they almost were kind of like their own faction that didn't listen to Megatron. Like they really kind of functioned as like their own kind of mercenary thing. So I could see the deluxe ones coming in and being like guys that are way more upper crust that control them and stuff. That's one way that I could see it being done. And have like, I guess I guess maybe Ransack would be the leader. Who would be the leader? Ransack, Venom. Yeah, Ransack. I could see Ransack being the leader. He's kind of the bigger, buffer one of the bunch. With the little... Yeah, he'd be cool. He'd be cool. No problem, Steven. No problem for the heads up. Hey, Proto, do you think we'll get Studio Series The Last Night Optimus Prime? I think it would be very interesting. Sooner or later, they're gonna do all the Studio Series stuff with movie stuff. Again, we got Studio Series 86 because they were running out of current movie stuff to do. So they're kind of like because the thing is that they didn't want to do all the I guess we'll call it the live action era. They didn't want to do all the live action era stuff and then do 86. They wanted that you have a little bit of everything going forward. That, you know, you could still have Studio Series 86, a little bit of live action, and a little bit of this and that. And they could do that over the next 3 to 5 years. They want to pace it out. They have a long road ahead of them of money to make and stock investors to make happy. You got to pace yourself. So that's the way that I see that. Dear Proto, who from Shattered Glass would you like to have as a toy? I really liked when they did that Unicron Earth female kind of thing going on there. That was really cool. I know that, like, if they... See, there's like no toys that you could really do it realistically without it being expensive. But it's like, if the only one I could see it being done, but it wouldn't turn to an Earth sphere toy, was if you take... You could barely see it. Oh, you could barely see it. The Cybertron Deluxe Unicron, give it like a different color scheme and stuff, I guess, but it'd still be kind of ugly. You'd have to retool it a bit. But I really liked that Unicron. And the what was the name of that Quintesson? There was a Shattered Glass Quintesson that was like a nice guy, and he had like John Lennon's face. That was kind of cool too. I always dug those. And now that we got a Quintesson mold, you can repaint and retool that. Now I think, hey Proto, now that I think about it, the Insecticons are kind of like the equivalent of the Dinobots, but on the Decepticon side. Yeah, they kind of did their own thing. They had a weird speech pattern, and they were a group of dudes that all had a similar color scheme amongst each other. The only difference is, unlike the Dinobots where you had Grimlock and 4 S's, Sludge, Swoop, Snarl, blah, blah. In the case of the Insecticons, they didn't have any kind of you have a bombshell, which if it explodes, it creates shrapnel, I guess, and then you get pushed back from the explosion and it's a kickback. I don't know. But the kickback thing could also be because it's a cricket, or a locust. So I don't know. I don't understand. The naming conventions and how they were used there was a little different. Proto, you think we could get a Studio Series 86 Blaster, Rewind, and Ramhorn? I could see that happening. I could see that happening. We just came off of a Blaster reissue, but I could see that happening possibly this year or next year, for sure. Or maybe in the half a year turnover, like after July when they're showing new product. I could see that. Blaster for sure. Blaster just didn't get enough mainstream stuff that I could see it happening. Dear Proto, I would have depicted Venom's crew with a colorful, bug-themed carnival ride bombshell rebuilt into Insecticons to bolster their ranks during yet a feud period between them and Megs. Okay, one could do that too. There's one of many different ways one could tell a story. The Energon Unicron Minicon was painted like Earth. That's pretty much the only Earth Transformer. Yeah, pretty much. I have him... it's hard to see. Oh man, the reflection. He's right there. I have my Unicron holding him. Holding that little Earth Transformer. It's the closest we got. Dead end. It's the way the Earth is going. It's going to be a dead end. Oh, did I say that? Hey, Proto. Wasn't the Beast Wars Predacon logo supposed to be an insectoid insignia after the Autobots and Decepticons insignia? The Predacons insignia is the best one for the graphic design, from a graphic design standpoint. Well, again, it's when you look at what Predacons are, they're primarily reptiles, aka dinosaurs, or insects. It works out. And the Maximal one, they settled on some kind of wolf kind of looking thing. I guess it's kind of a wolf. you know, works. And it's not like there was a wolf on the Maximals initially, unless you count Silverbolt, and it's, the insectoid looking one. It looks like Waspinator's face at best. So, and not to mention, when you think about it, Maximals and Predacons are actually something that's supposed to be in Cybertron as the next descendant. So what does it have to really do with animals? But that's a whole other lore deep dive in a lot of ways. Hey Proto, how would you introduce Starsaber to a Western audience? Technically was introduced through the IDW comics, but I wouldn't use that example, James. I would, at some point, introduce, let's put it this way, give an example. Anyone who watched Cyberverse, the character of Thunderhowl. Now, obviously, he was a little cheesy, the way he was introduced, but that's one way that you introduce a character for the first time to the mainstream, is you create a character that was a Japanese-only kind of thing, and you just kind of slide him in, give him an episode, a feature, and now he's part of the pathos. It's all there. We got 2 minutes, people. 2 minutes left. So, any super chat questions or anything, lay them on me now, guys. Hey, Proto, do you think we will get Nemesis? Yeah, there's probably going to be a black repaint at some point, for sure. Black repaint, any Optimus mold, it's going to get a black repaint. Don't worry about that. It's always a matter of when. That's it. Dear Proto, do you think Studio Series 86 Perceptor would follow a Blaster? It would be a great pair together. Run, Blaster, save yourself. No way, two can play. Be awesome. It's still not a Kia Maxima. The Maximals were named after a Nissan Maxima. There's no such thing as a Kia Maxima. But yeah, Nissan Maxima. Where we at? Proto, how would you do a Chug Slipstream? We technically got one. Through the Collector Club. They used that Prime Starscream mold. And then technically we got it, again, through the Transformer Legends line in Japan, through the Windblade mold. We got 2 of them. So we'd probably have to get another retool of a Seeker Jet mold or something. But yeah, we got it twice. So technically. When are we going to see Kingdom Arc? Sooner than you think. Now that New York Toy Fair isn't happening and they weren't going to do their big reveal. So sooner than you think. Maybe before next month is over. Kickback, yeah, I said kickback is for a sudden force of recoil. Again, bombshell, explosion, shrapnel, kickback. That's the connection that they have with the names. What it has to do with insects is a whole other story. A Cthulhu transformer creature. Oh, I don't. My Cthulhu drawing is upstairs that I got from Aaron Archer. I was going to show it. Hey Proto, out of the 80s original cast, who was the dumbest alt mode? Oof. Dumbest alt mode? I don't know. I don't want to rag on Perceptor, but a microscope isn't going to do much in battle. Unless you really play out that he could see very far. But when we're talking just the alt mode, I guess Perceptor. And I don't hate Perceptor at all, but he's probably the most useless for an alt mode. Hey man, when Prime was dying, you didn't have Wheeljack and Ratchet to help out. You had Perceptor on the deathbed. So that says a lot about that microscope mode. All he could tell you was the wounds were fatal. Hey Proto, man, do you think it would be cool if a bootleg company made an Ultra Magnus repaint of Studio Series Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime? How about if Hasbro just does it? How about if Hasbro just does a repaint of it? We don't need a bootleg company to do it. Hasbro could do it. Hey Proto, Starsaber could be the leader of the Knights of Cybertron and lead that group. That's one way. One of many different ways. One of many different ways. But yeah, that's more or less it, guys. Once again, thank you to Symbiote Studios for sponsoring everything. Be sure to check out symbiotestudios.com and get your cool swaggy-daggy of Transformer stuff. Their shirts, their plush, their sweet. Especially their shirts. What fell over there. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, to coming to the podcast. Once again, if you want to support everything that we do here in the craziness, You could go down below, join the Patreon. Patreon helps out a lot, helps the podcast and all the cool stuff that we got going on. We are a daily podcast. Check us out every single day for new Transformer content, news, updates, information, listener questions, Transformer finance. We got all the cool stuff. I try to do my best to give people great content. But again, thanks everyone for coming. We topped out at one point. We had like 200 people live. So that was pretty cool. Really, really cool having everybody here. Thanks again for everyone who gave the super chat questions. Again, it really helps out when people help support the podcast. So, like I always say, thanks again for coming. And as always, roll out.